My dear sisters and brothers, imagine if the moments right after Fajr were not just the quietest part of your day, but the most powerful. Imagine if those few early minutes held keys to Barakah you have been making dua for all year. Many of us rush back to our beds, scroll through our phones, or let the morning slip away, and we don't even realize what treasures we are leaving behind. Today, I want to gently wake our hearts to something beautiful. You see, the early morning is not ordinary time. It is a time Allah Himself has filled with openings, with acceptance, with light. The righteous before us guarded these moments carefully because they knew something we often forget. What you do after Fajr can shape the spiritual energy of your entire day. And subhanallah, the beauty of our deen is that the doors of Barakah are not complicated. They are simple, intentional, and deeply transformative when done with presence. So today, inspired by the reflections of Dr. Haifaa Younis, I want you to lean in with your heart, not just your ears. Because what I am about to share with you are 9 gentle but powerful actions, 9 small steps after Fajr that, by Allah's permission, can begin to change the way Barakah flows into your life. There is something deeply sacred about the moments that follow Fajr, something gentle and quiet that many hearts have forgotten how to notice. The world is still half asleep. The noise has not yet fully awakened, and the soul is in one of its softest states. Yet for many of us, this time passes unnoticed. We pray Fajr, perhaps with sincerity, perhaps with effort, and then almost instinctively we return to our beds, our phones, or our daily rush. Without realizing it, we close a door that Allah has lovingly opened for us every single morning. Guarding the moments after Fajr is not about adding more pressure to your life. It is about recognizing a gift that is already being placed in your hands and choosing, gently and intentionally, not to drop it. The early morning carries a unique barakah that the righteous before us deeply understood. They did not treat the time after Fajr as empty space waiting to be filled later. They treated it as prime spiritual real estate, as a window in which hearts are more receptive, doors are more hopeful, and actions carry a weight that is often heavier than at other times of the day. When you pause and reflect, you begin to see the wisdom. Your mind is clearer. Your distractions are fewer. Your heart, having just stood before Allah in Salah, is softer and more present. This is not coincidence. This is divine design. Allah in His mercy gives you a daily opening, but the question is whether you will step through it or quietly walk away. Many people assume that Barakah comes only from big changes, from dramatic moments, from overnight transformations. But often, Barakah enters life through small doors that are consistently honored. The minutes after Fajr are one of those doors. When you guard them, even in simple ways, you begin to notice subtle shifts. Your mornings feel less rushed. Your heart feels less heavy. Your day carries a different rhythm. It is not always loud or dramatic. In fact, the most profound Barakah often arrives quietly, settling into your life like soft light spreading across the horizon. Guarding this time begins first with awareness. You cannot protect what you do not value. Many of us were never taught the spiritual weight of early morning. We were taught to wake up for school, for work, for responsibilities, but not necessarily to honor the sacred stillness that Allah places before the day fully unfolds. Once your heart begins to understand that these moments are special, your behavior naturally starts to shift. You become more reluctant to waste them. You become more intentional about how you move through them. Even if you are tired, even if your body is asking for more sleep, there is a gentle voice inside that begins to say, "Stay a little longer, there is goodness here." It is also important to understand that guarding the moments after Fajr does not require perfection. Shaitan often whispers an all or nothing mindset. If you cannot do a lot, then do nothing. But the path of Barakah is built on consistency, not perfection. Even sitting for a few minutes in quiet Dhaka, even making sincere istighfar while the sky is still soft with dawn, even reciting a small portion of Quran with presence, these are not small in the sight of Allah. The key is not the quantity. The key is the sincerity and the consistency with which you honor this time. Another beautiful aspect of the early morning is the emotional clarity it brings. During the day, our hearts become crowded. Notifications, conversations, responsibilities, worries, they pile up quietly until we feel internally noisy. But after Fajr, before the world fully enters your space, your emotional landscape is still relatively clear. This is why many people find that their du'as after Fajr feel more focused, more sincere, more connected. It is easier to speak to Allah when your heart is not competing with 100 distractions. Guarding this time protects that emotional clarity and allows your relationship with Allah to breathe. There is also a physical wisdom embedded in honoring the early morning. When you resist the urge to immediately return to sleep after Fajr, your body gradually adapts to a more balanced rhythm. Your energy across the day often becomes more stable. Your focus sharpens. Your mornings feel less chaotic. Islam does not separate the spiritual from the physical. They are beautifully intertwined. The barakah of the morning touches both your heart and your daily functioning in ways that are sometimes subtle but deeply real. Of course, the struggle is real. Warm beds are inviting. Sleep can feel heavy, especially in certain seasons of life, new motherhood, demanding work schedules, emotional exhaustion. Guarding the moments after Fajr is not about ignoring your human limitations. It is about gently stretching your capacity with wisdom and self-compassion. Some days you may guard 30 minutes. Some days only 5. Some days you may simply sit on your prayer mat and whisper quiet dhikr while fighting sleep. Allah sees the effort before He sees the outcome. What matters is that your heart is trying to hold on to what it now recognizes as precious. Over time, something beautiful begins to happen. What once felt difficult starts to feel protective. What once felt like discipline begins to feel like nourishment. You start to crave the calm of early morning. You begin to notice when you miss it. The soul has a remarkable way of recognizing what feeds it, even if the body initially resists. This is one of the quiet miracles of consistency. The more gently you guard these moments, the more your heart learns to love them. There is also a ripple effect that extends beyond your personal spirituality. When your mornings begin with presence instead of panic, your interactions throughout the day often soften. You respond instead of react. You carry more patience into your conversations. Your emotional resilience grows quietly in the background. Barakah is not always about visible increase. Sometimes it is about inner expansion, more sakina in your chest, more steadiness in your responses, more light in your perspective. Guarding the time after Fajr becomes like setting the spiritual tone of your entire day before the world has a chance to disrupt it. One of the most overlooked benefits of honoring this time is the sense of intentional living it cultivates. Many people move through their days in reaction mode, constantly responding to whatever comes their way. But when you begin your morning with conscious remembrance, with quiet reflection, with purposeful stillness, you are subtly training your soul to lead rather than drift. You are reminding yourself, at the very start of the day, that your life is anchored to something higher than your to-do list. It is also worth remembering that guarding the moments after Fajr is not meant to feel heavy or rigid. The beauty of our deen is its flexibility within sincerity. Some mornings you may recite Quran slowly, letting each ayah settle into your heart. Some mornings you may sit in silent dhikr, repeating words of remembrance until your breathing softens. Some mornings you may simply raise your hands in dua and speak honestly to Allah about what is weighing on you. The form may vary. The intention remains steady. You are choosing not to walk away from the door of barakah that has been opened for you. As this practice settles into your life, you may begin to notice another quiet shift. Your relationship with time itself starts to change. Days feel less compressed. Tasks feel more manageable. There is a subtle expansion that many people struggle to explain but deeply feel. This is part of the mystery of Barakah. It does not always add more hours to your day, but it often adds more ease within the hours you already have. Guarding the sacred moments after Fajr is ultimately an act of love. Love for the opportunity Allah gives you each morning. Love for the state of your own heart. Love for a life that is lived with more awareness and less heedlessness. And like all acts of love, it grows stronger with gentle repetition. Not through harsh self-criticism, not through overwhelming goals, but through small, sincere choices made again and again in the quiet light of dawn, when the world is still and the doors of barakah are quietly, generously open. Small actions often appear ordinary to the eye, almost too simple to be meaningful. Yet in the scale of Allah, they can carry a weight that quietly transforms a life. Many people spend years waiting for a dramatic turning point, a powerful moment that will suddenly elevate their spirituality or fix what feels stuck inside them. But the wisdom of our deen teaches us something far more gentle and far more accessible. Consistent, sincere actions, even when they are small, have the power to reshape the entire atmosphere of your day. Especially in the early morning, when the heart is still soft and the world has not yet crowded your attention. These small acts become seeds of barakah planted into the hours ahead. When you wake after Fajr and choose one intentional act, perhaps a few minutes of dhikr, a quiet recitation of Quran, or sincere istighfar, you are not just filling time. You are setting a spiritual tone. Think of your morning like the first drop of color placed into clear water. It slowly spreads, subtly influencing everything that comes after it. Most people underestimate this effect because the change is rarely loud or immediate. But over days and weeks, the one who honors the morning with consistent remembrance often finds that their inner state begins to stabilize in ways they cannot fully explain. Consistency is beloved because it reflects sincerity. It is easy to act with passion for a single day. It is much harder and much more meaningful to return again and again to the same small acts with quiet devotion. This is where transformation truly lives. When you sit after Fajr each morning, even for a short time, you are training your heart in loyalty. You are telling your soul that your connection with Allah is not based on mood, not based on convenience, and not based on emotional highs. It is based on presence. It is based on showing up. Many people struggle because they aim too high at the beginning. They imagine that meaningful change requires long hours of worship, perfect focus, and immediate emotional impact. When that expectation is not met, they feel discouraged and quietly give up. But the path of Barakah is built differently. It welcomes the one who starts small and stays steady. Even 5 minutes of sincere remembrance after Fajr, done consistently, can open doors in the heart that occasional long efforts never reach. The key is not intensity, the key is continuity. There is something uniquely powerful about morning consistency because of the state of the heart at that time. Right after Fajr, your spiritual slate is still relatively clear. The worries of the day have not fully entered. The noise of responsibilities has not yet taken over. When you place dhikr, Quran, or quiet dua into this early space, it settles more deeply. It is like writing on fresh paper rather than trying to add words to a page that is already crowded. Over time, this repeated early imprint begins to shape your emotional responses throughout the day. You may start to notice that situations which once overwhelmed you feel more manageable. Conversations that used to trigger quick reactions now meet a calmer version of you. Moments of stress feel slightly softened around the edges. This is one of the hidden ways Barakah shows itself. It is not always through dramatic external change. Often it appears as internal steadiness, as emotional breathing room, as a quiet resilience that was not there before. And it often begins with those small, sincere morning actions that seemed almost too simple to matter. Another beauty of consistent morning acts is how they anchor your intention for the day. Without intention, days tend to drift. We move from task to task, responding to whatever appears in front of us, often ending the day feeling scattered or spiritually distant. But when your morning begins with even a brief moment of conscious remembrance, you are subtly orienting your entire day toward Allah. You are reminding your heart, before the world begins pulling at you, what your true center is. This orientation may feel quiet, but its effects accumulate in powerful ways. It is also important to understand that sincerity is what gives small actions their transformative power. Two people may sit for the same 5 minutes after Fajr, reciting the same words, yet the impact on their hearts can be very different. When the heart is present, when the intention is honest, when the act is done seeking closeness to Allah rather than simply completing a routine, the barakah multiplies. This is why protecting your focus even gently matters. You do not need perfect concentration, but you do need presence. Even returning your wandering mind back to remembrance again and again is itself an act beloved to Allah. There will be mornings when consistency feels easy, when your heart is light and your body cooperative. And there will be mornings when every minute feels heavy, when sleep pulls strongly, when focus is difficult. These harder mornings are not failures. In many ways, they are the most valuable, because consistency maintained during difficulty carries a special sincerity. When you show up despite tiredness, despite distraction, despite low energy, you are demonstrating something deeply meaningful, that your commitment is not dependent on ease. Over time, these small morning practices begin to build spiritual momentum. At first, the changes are subtle. You may only notice that your mornings feel slightly calmer. Then perhaps your focus improves. Then perhaps your emotional reactions soften. Eventually, many people find that their entire relationship with the day begins to shift. Tasks feel more organized. Time feels less rushed. Moments of frustration feel more manageable. This is the quiet expansion of Barakah working its way through ordinary life. One of the most comforting aspects of this path is its accessibility. You do not need special circumstances. You do not need long, uninterrupted hours. You do not need to reach a perfect spiritual state before beginning. You simply need willingness and gentle persistence. The person who guards even a few sincere minutes after Fajr each day is walking a path that has transformed hearts for generations. It is a path built not on dramatic bursts of effort, but on steady, faithful presence. It is also worth remembering that small, consistent actions protect you from the cycle of spiritual burnout. Intense bursts of worship followed by long gaps often leave the heart feeling unstable. But when your morning includes manageable, repeatable acts, your spirituality gains rhythm. Your connection with Allah becomes woven into your daily life rather than appearing only in isolated moments. This steady rhythm is deeply nourishing to the soul. As days turn into weeks, many people notice that what once required effort begins to feel natural. Sitting after Fajr becomes less of a task and more of a familiar refuge. Dhikr begins to flow more easily. The quiet of the morning starts to feel protective rather than empty. This is one of the signs that the heart is adapting to consistency. What begins with discipline often blossoms into love, and perhaps one of the most beautiful outcomes is the subtle increase in hope that consistent morning remembrance brings. When your day begins with connection to Allah, even briefly, it becomes easier to carry trust into the unknown moments ahead. Challenges still come. Responsibilities still exist. But the heart moves through them with a slightly different posture, less frantic, more anchored, more quietly reliant on the one who heard your morning whispers before the world fully woke.